everybody, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about what I believe is the biggest problem facing small businesses right now, and that is overcoming obscurity. Now, I know there's loads of problems around there out in the world. You know, the world's going mad and we got wars and, you know, I suppose compared with all that, you know, this is a minor problem. But I do really sincerely believe, you know, that, you know, if you're going to market your business, you've got to overcome this problem that bigger businesses have already overcome. Let me give you an example. You know, if I said to you, what's the logo of a brand that's like a tick? For 99.9% of you, you'll go, it's Nike. What about if there was an apple, just a picture of an apple? You probably think it might be Apple, wouldn't you? The point being that, you know, when you're a big brand like that, everybody knows you. You don't have obscurity. Everybody knows you. So when Apple decide to release the latest iPhone or develop a new version of the MacBook, you know, they've already got a queue of people waiting outside the store for 2 days before the store even opens to sell them. So obscurity is not a problem in Apple's world. Having said that, you know, you look at a company like Coca-Cola who've tested removing their advertising, and they found that the amount of people that bought Coca-Cola reduced by 5 to 10%. So they did some testing. I think the states were Texas and I don't know, Miami, let's say. I can't remember, but they stopped advertising there. All of a sudden, sales started to drop. They continued with advertising and sales went back up to what they were. So even when you are a big company, you've still got to create that brand awareness. But I'm not into that. I'm not into creating brand awareness. What I'm into is getting leads and sales. That's what I've spent over 31 years doing. That's what I've helped to do for over 10,000 businesses. And by the way, I've helped them to create an average return on investment, in other words, increase in their business of 45% within 12 months. And that's just an average. You know, some of them less, some of them more. And, you know, if you're interested in that, then, you know, by all means, get in touch. You can see my website scrolling across the screen below me. If you can't and you're watching on perhaps on my podcast, then it's results-mastery.com. Drop me a line and we can arrange a time to meet and talk about your business. However, what we are talking about now is overcoming obscurity. The simple fact is that not if you're a small business, not enough people know about you. Probably. And I'm going to suggest that it's somewhere around about 95 to 98% of all small businesses need to improve the level of obscurity that they've got. Let me give you an example. Even on a small area. Now, I live on the Isle of Wight, which is about 30 miles across and about 15 miles north to west. There's about 120,000 people on the island. So let's say there's 30 or 40,000 houses. Now, if I was, I don't know, a builder, a landscape gardener, a painter and decorator, a roofing guy, an electrician, a plumber, you know, any of those like trades, you could argue that all those people, or at least let's say half of them, maybe I'm a high-end person, you know, or I'm a thatcher, and therefore there are only 1,000 houses with thatch on the Isle of Wight. But whatever that number is, the big question is this: how many of those can you get a marketing message to? Now, we got a lot of consultants watching this, so the idea of, well, I'm not a plumber, and I fully understand that. So if I asked you, how many people, how many businesses can you help in the UK or in Europe or in the world, wherever it is you work? You know, if you live in London and you only want to work from businesses in and around London, that's fine. How many are there? And then the second question is, how many can you deliver a sales and marketing message to right now? So I'm talking people on your LinkedIn list, you connected to on Facebook, and so on. Perhaps the people who are visiting your website, your email list. If you've got one of those, then how many people are on it? Well, let me tell you about me. So I've been going for many, many years, 31 years now, just over. And if you ask me how many, I'd say I'm probably got like, I don't know, 11,000 people on my email list, because I've thinned it out a lot. I've got rid of all the ones that weren't really doing anything, weren't opening my emails and so on and so forth. So I got rid of all those. I've probably got a social media following of about, if you added them all together, about 80,000 people. So let's say it's 90,000-ish. Now, in the UK alone, and I work abroad as well, I do quite a lot in the Middle East and across Europe, even been to Australia and America and Canada and so on. I've got even clients in Argentina. So, you know, I've got a very wide spread of clients. And really, in an ideal world, I'd want to be connected to everybody, every business that is my target market. You know, I don't work for butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers, but I do work a lot with professional service firms, consultants, coaches, advisors, people in what I loosely term the helping industry. So if I work with them, ideally, I want to be connected to all of them, don't I? So, you know, I've got a reasonable amount, but there's no doubt loads and loads of consultants, accountants, coaches, solicitors, and so on and so forth that don't know about me and what I do. So really what we're doing here is saying, right, we need to try to improve that. We need to be working on developing that list. Let me just give you some examples of this. You know, if you think about this from a marketing perspective, if your main marketing focus right now is going networking, you know, you go to a room, you've got 20, 10, 50 people in the room, and they're your target market at the moment, you know, that you're doing right now. And it might be that you can pick up the names, contact details, business cards of, you know, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 people even. And that's good. But can you see how limited that is? What about all the people who are not at that event? What about, you know, the people that are not even a member of that event? You know, if you go to a chamber of commerce, typical chamber of commerce might have 250 members, but there's only 30 come to this event. What's going to happen with all the others? Well, they don't know. You know, you're suffering from obscurity. They don't know you, they don't like you, and they certainly don't trust you because you're trying to sell them something that they believe is not necessarily what they want, or they've already got one, or they've no need right now, etc. What about LinkedIn? What happens on there? Well, what happens with me, and I'm sure it does with you, is I connect to somebody. Somebody asks me to connect. They send me a message saying, hi, I was looking at your website. It looks like what you do is really valuable, Steve, and I'd like to connect to you. So I go, right, okay, great. Press that little button saying connect. What happens? Often, absolutely nothing. Nothing. There's no follow-up. There's no nothing. What other time happens is within 10 seconds, I get an email from them that's about that long that there's no way they've written that is on autopilot from some piece of software that tries to flog me something that they don't even know whether I want or not. You know, what is wrong with this picture, guys? You know, we've got to get people, we've got to get to know people. We've got to get people to a level where they know, like, and trust us. But more about that in a little while. So what about your email? You know, people say, oh, yeah, I do email. I do. All right. Okay. How many people are on your list? Oh, I've got, it's about 500. Okay. So how long have you been going? Oh, 15 years. 15 years and you've only got 500 people on your list. What have you been doing? Really? Or I see people who go, well, I've not really got a list. You've not got a list. You've not got a list of customers, of past customers, of prospects, of suppliers, of people you network with, of PR contacts, of specific industries. You know, I've got a list of accountants. I've got a list of consultants, a list of solicitors. I've got a list of people that I call in the helping industry. I've got a list of clients, a list of past clients, a list of prospects, list of suppliers. I've got lots and lots of lists that I can segment to deliver various marketing messages. And why wouldn't I have? That makes total and utter sense to me. So if you've not got that, what's happening? You are leaving money on the table. But what we don't want to do, whether it's through email, whether it's through social media, through LinkedIn, through whatever, is it's like this. Would you go to a networking event? You got 20 people in the room. You go up to the first person and you go, your version of, hi, my name's Steve Mills. I do marketing. Do you need any help? No? Oh, all right, then bye. And then go and talk to the next person, then the next person, then the next person. But we do this all the time on LinkedIn, on email, and so on and so forth. Either that or we don't do anything, which is even worse, possibly, although I'm not quite sure about that. You know, I hear people tell me, oh, yeah, I do email. Yeah. I said, well, what do you do then? They say, well, we send out a quarterly newsletter. That's, I think, equivalent to me meeting a young lady, taking her out for dinner, both of us saying, I've had a great time, really enjoyed it. So I say, well, would you like to see me again? And she says, yes. And so I say, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send you an email in 3 months' time. That's that quarterly newsletter. It ain't going to build that relationship. And it ain't going to build that business relationship. So we've got to keep in touch on a regular basis. Take no notice of these people who say, oh, you don't want to, you know, bombard them. You know, it's the problem is it's not that you're doing too much, it's that you're doing too little. Trust me. Now, I'm not saying you send them emails every day, obviously. You know, you don't want to go from once a quarter to every day, but you might want to go from once a quarter to every month and then keep that going for a while. And then from every month to every fortnight, and then build that up till you get to like once a week. And you just maintain at that level. So you're keeping in touch, because I can tell you now, one of the biggest problems that we've got in marketing or in business is timing. It's like right now, I don't need a solicitor. Tomorrow, when something happens, speaking to a solicitor is the most important thing I need to do. Right now, I don't need a HR person. But tomorrow morning, when I'm thinking about recruitment, I might need to speak to one to give me an understanding of the recruitment process, some advice, and so on and so forth. So, you know, this stuff is really, really valuable. Now, here's a question for you. Do you think, assuming that you've got an email list or you've got a list of people that you're connected to on LinkedIn, and also assuming that you're winning business from those, let's just say, for example, I've got an email list. I message my list on a regular basis, and that gets me £100,000 worth of business every year. And it's roundabout, it's just less than I'll just call it 10,000 for easy reckoning. It's 10,000 on my list. If I could double that to 20,000. Instead of emailing 10,000, I was able to double 20,000. Do you think it's reasonable to suppose that instead of winning 100 grand, I could win 200 grand? Is that possible? Yeah. Now, it might not quite work out, might it? Wouldn't it be awful if I only made 180 grand by doing the same amount of work, because I'm sending that email out on autopilot, and it only wins me 180 grand instead of 100 grand? What have I just done? I've just grown my business by 80%. What about LinkedIn? You know, if I'm connected to 15,000 people, and even if I could only, you know, increase that to 20,000 over the next year, because I put some effort in, get, you know, whatever, well, let's say 400 a month, 400 new contacts per month. You know, what would that equate to? I don't know, but let's say it's 100 grand again. I get 100 grand from LinkedIn. I reckon that's going to be what, 140 grand. So I've now doubled my business just by improving that one thing, the number of people I'm able to deliver a marketing message to. Okay. Now, in my results mastery system, this is the system that I've developed over 31 years that's helped over 10,000 businesses to create an average of 45% growth, guys. You know, what else do we do in that? Well, that's where it starts. You've got to overcome obscurity. Next step is you've got to keep in touch with people. You've got to be good at keeping in touch, because, you know, if you connect them on LinkedIn, don't ever speak to them. You get them on your email list, don't ever send them an email. Meet them at a networking event and never follow up. So I'll tell you something. I've been to thousands of networking events in the last 31 years. I've met people. I've had good conversations. I'm a reasonably social person. You know, I'd consider myself to be good with people. And if I asked you how many times have people followed up with me in round figures from those thousands of marketing events that I've been to, how many people have followed up, do you think? Well, I'm going to say it's none. In actual fact, it might be a couple, but I bet I could count them on one hand. How many people have followed up? How many people should have followed up? You would think that it's going to be if there's 1,000 events that I've been to, I would have thought I'd spoken to at least 5 or 6 people at each event, and probably and often a lot more than that. Often when I go to networking events, I'm the speaker at the front of it, and everybody listens to what I've just said for half an hour. And some of them give me their contact details, and they never think of contacting me because I might be interested in what they say. So this is a really important one. Then we've got to get this, what I call interaction. It's no use me going, here's an email, here's an email, here's an email. And by the way, these emails are not sales emails at this stage. This communication that we're having is not about, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that? Do you want to buy something else? It's far too early in that conversation. It's like the guy who connects to me on LinkedIn and then disappears off, you know, or connects to me on LinkedIn rather and sends me a message within 10 seconds. You know, that ain't going to work. So we've got to we've got to position you as the expert in what you do. Daniel Priestley, in his book, Key Person of Influence, describes that perfectly. You've got to become the key person of influence. When somebody thinks about marketing advice, I want them to think Steve Mills. If you're an accountant and somebody needs a new accountant or some tax advice, I want them to think about you. If you're a business coach, perhaps personal development coach, you're the natural choice because you're the key person of influence. You're the person that everybody knows. And by the way, I fully recommend buying that book. Daniel Priestley, get on Amazon. I'm not on commission. It's a great book. And if you saw my copy of it, mine's all tattered and torn and got yellow marker all over it where I've picked up good advice from it. So fully recommend that. So we've got to get this interaction. We've got to get them coming back. How do we do that? Well, we perhaps ask them questions. We give them advice. We maybe send them to something. We try and get them onto our webinar so we can speak to them. We perhaps offer them a meeting at this point, you know, but we're not trying to sell them yet. Once we've got them to the next level where they've been communicating with us, so there's a level of what I call know, like, and trust. So they perhaps know, like, and trust me, but they don't yet know, like, and trust my Results Mastermind program, because they've never even heard of it unless I've already spoken to them about it. So I've got to now, next step, build up their knowledge of my products and services and my company, Results Mastery, because people buy from people, products, and companies that they know, like, and trust. I'm a massive advocate of Apple. You know, I know, like, and trust Apple. I know, like, and trust its products and services. And if Apple came up with a new TV or there was a new Apple car, I probably want an Apple car, you know, because I'm a really big advocate of that company. So they've got me to know, like, and trust. I know it is. Give you a perfect example. Tony Robbins, a lot of you will know of Tony Robbins. He's the world's #1 consultant, by the way. He turns over somewhere in the region of 11 billion a year. So it's just a little bit more than me. I say that very tongue in cheek, by the way, but he's very successful. And Tony's known right throughout the world in his niche. And as a consultant, you wonder, is there anything I could learn from Tony? Well, Tony's got himself to a level, certainly by getting people to know him through his events and webinars and books and so on and so forth. He's got them to a level where they're communicating with him or now with his staff. And he's now got to get them to a level where they're going to perhaps give him some money or at least come to a meeting, to an event. Now, with Tony, it tends to be events. With you and I, it might be to a meeting. It might be to an event like this one, which is a live stream, but it might be to a meeting. We've then got to get that first sale, that elusive first sale. And if we can't do that, then all this work before it has been a waste of time. We've got to keep trying. One of the biggest mistakes is people give up. They, whoever they are, say that it takes 8 to 11 communications to make a sale. I always dispute that, because you never know. It depends on the quality of that communication. But what I do firmly believe is most people give up far too early. I send them an email, I follow up on the phone, they don't answer, so I send them another email. If they still don't respond, they go into the database, and I send them a quarterly newsletter. Now, that ain't good enough. We've got to have a better sales system than that. So that's really important. So let's just assume that we do get that sale. We've then got to think about something called the lifetime value. Let me tell you a quick story. Many years ago, I was selling an apartment in Cardiff, and we hired a solicitor. We paid that solicitor £1,200. His name was Richard. Really good guy. Really got on well with him. Can't even remember his last name. That's how good the relationship was. He did us a great job, and at the end, I sent him a bottle of champagne as a thank you for the great job he'd done for us. From that day to this, I've never heard from Richard. Not at all, not once. He's not contacted me about my wills. I've since moved house probably 3 times. He's not contacted me regarding that. He's not offered to do any work for my business. I've probably hired a solicitor 2 or 3 times in the last 30 odd years, or certainly, no, probably in the last 10 years, actually, 2 or 3 times. And so his value was a one-off sale. He sold me one thing for £1,200. He missed out on probably somewhere in the region of £10,000 to £20,000 in legal fees. Now you may be thinking, well, why didn't you contact him, Steve? Because the reason is I forgot his name. I know it was Richard. I can't remember his company. I've done some research. I've tried to find him on Google. I can't find him. I tried to find him on LinkedIn. I typed into LinkedIn, Richard, solicitor in Cardiff, and a couple of them came up, but he wasn't one of them. So, you know, he's lost out by not keeping in touch. So we need to think about this lifetime value. You know, it's one of the most powerful, underutilized areas of marketing. So that's it. That's all I've got to say for you today. I hope it was of value. I hope you're going to take it. I hope you've made some notes. I hope you'll watch this because you'll probably pick something up on the second viewing. But most of all, and this is the thing that's going to make the difference, is take action. That's what's going to make the difference. Learning new stuff. If you don't take action as a result of listening to me today, you've just wasted half an hour or nearly half an hour of your life. What a waste of time. You know, what's going to get you results is doing, you don't have to do everything, but just do something that's going to move your business forward. And one thing that I strongly recommend that you do is book a meeting with me. What's the worst thing that could happen? You could waste another half an hour. But what's the best thing that could happen? You could be working with me, helping you grow your business by an average of 45% over the next 12 months. So I don't know what that looks like for you in terms of how big your business is. But hopefully we can do that together. And that's an average, by the way. Some have made 100%, 200% growth utilizing my system. So that's it. Thank you ever so much for listening. Don't forget, I do these every Wednesday. So see you next week. And I look forward to speaking to you then. Thanks very much.